Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And in today's range report, we're going to be taking a look at a Turkish-made clone of the Beretta 84FS. This is the Girsan MC14 G84. This is a double stack 380 pistol that utilizes a direct blowback system of operation. And to show you the similarities, I do have my personal Beretta 84FS Cheetah here on the workbench as well. They are essentially the same size, they use the same magazines, but mechanically they are a little bit different, and I will show you those differences a little bit later in this review. So, in full disclosure, I am going to give you a caveat to this video, and it's something that I expect all firearms reviewers that are online to always disclose, and that is, this gun was sent to the channel for review by the importer EAA, but I get no other compensation for this review. I get no ammunition from them. I only receive the firearm. And I want to be upfront and honest with you so you can decide if that affects my bias at all when it comes to my thoughts. But before we take this gun to the range and tell you about all the things that I like and don't like, I always want to thank the people that make these videos possible. The first group I want to thank, of course, is EAA for sending me this gun. I'm really excited to get a chance to take it to the range and see what it's all about. I always want to thank my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not do this without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon, you can do it for as little as $1 a month, and there is a link in the description below, and you get to see all these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor who always provides the ammunition for these range reports, my good friend Mark from Brownworks. And today we are reviewing a clone of a Beretta pistol, and most likely you're a fan of Beretta. You probably have one of their 92FSs or maybe an M9 or some other pistol in their lineup, and you might be in the market for a set of wood panel grips to make your Beretta unique and one of a kind. Well, I have the perfect grip company for you. Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company making a wide variety of grips for a wide variety of firearms out of a wide variety of exotic woods and materials. Mark is an artist and he's a craftsman, and the Beretta 92 is one of his specialties. He can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish these grips on a wide variety of colors, and he can even apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin to make these grips unique and one of a kind. He can also create his own laminate woods. Anything you can imagine, Mark can make. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code for 10% off your first order. And I'm going to ask you guys to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place that order for your first set of custom grips, please tell Mark the Texas Gun Vault sent you. Alright, so once again, let's talk about the pistol we have on the table today. The Girsan MC14 G84. This is a copy of the Beretta 84FS. It is made in Turkey. Some people are going to care about that, some people are not. It is a straight blowback 380 pistol that utilizes a 13-round capacity double stack magazine, which is compatible with the Beretta. This is a great little pistol designed for the concealed carry market. And as of late, 380s in this size have become more and more popular. Now, being that this is essentially a copy or a clone of the Beretta, I want to show you some of the differences that I have discovered between this and an original Beretta. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the camera and show you those differences that I have discovered. So handling this pistol here on the workbench, I've noticed three big differences between the Girsan and an original Beretta. The first thing I think is a huge improvement and upgrade. On the Beretta 84FS, if you do not have a magazine inserted and you try to pull the trigger, it's not going to work because this has a magazine safety disconnect, and it's one of those features that I think Beretta wants to put in there, but everyone knows it ruins the trigger pull. It just doesn't feel as good as if it was omitted. But guess what Girsan did? Yeah, you got it. They took it out. So you don't have to worry about that, and I really feel like this trigger is way better than the original Berettas. However, Girsan has also omitted another feature that I think is really nice that is on the Beretta, and that is a decocker. This is a double action, single action pistol, and some people might want to carry this gun cocked and locked, which I completely think is a legitimate way of carrying it. However, some people might not feel comfortable having that hammer back, and they want a safe way of decocking it when there is a round in the chamber. On the Beretta 84FS, you simply push up on the safety and it safely decocks the gun. However, on the Girsan, we do not have that. This is a safety only. So you can safely carry this gun cocked and locked. However, if you want to decock it, that is not going to be an option. And I think that might deter some people from looking at this gun depending on the condition in which they wish to carry their pistol. The other thing that I have noticed between the two pistols, and honestly I think this is one of the nicest upgrades to this, is when I try to rack the slide on the Beretta 84FS, I really feel like the springs are very, very stout. That is a really hard slide to pull back. In fact, if I ask my wife to pull the slide back on this gun, she can't. It is just a really stiff spring, and it might be intrinsic to the design. However, on the Girsan, this is a much more manageable pistol if you have weaker hands. I find that slide is much easier to rack. I feel like the spring weight and tension is a lot less. So I feel like from a user perspective, this is the easier gun, especially due to the market in which I think they are trying to get this gun out to, which would be potentially female shooters or people that might have weaker hands and wrists that have difficulty in racking traditional slides on semi-automatic handguns. This gun is way easier to use from that perspective. So in some ways, I feel like the Girsan is a big upgrade, and in some ways I feel like it's not as good as the original Beretta. But those are the things that I noticed that are the biggest differences between this gun. We also have a few aesthetic changes, such as the trigger guard. You can see the Girsan is a little bit more rounded, where the Beretta is a little bit more square. But for the most part, everything is in the usual spots. It's essentially the same size, the same length. It looks very, very similar. So that's what I discovered about these two pistols. So now let me adjust the camera back and we'll talk about the things that I really like about this pistol. So as I mentioned, there's a few things about this gun that I really like, and they're pretty much the same things I have always said about every Girsan. The first thing I love about these guns is even though they're affordable, they seem to be high quality. When you hold one of these, you don't really see any machine marks. They're finished really well. The lockup on them is really tight. You know, many other guns in this price point really do feel cheap. We all know those companies. This one just doesn't have that feel. It really feels like a Beretta. It feels like a high quality gun. And this is something I have said about every Girsan I have reviewed. Not just this one, which has been sent to the channel. And you can go see my other reviews where I talk about that. Another thing I really like about this gun, especially with the way it looks, is they do offer this in a two-tone variant. So here we have a dark gray frame and a black slide. I do believe they offer an all black version, but this two-tone looks absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of the size of this pistol as well. As I mentioned, this is a gun that I think is geared towards the concealed carry market, and just a few years ago, I think this is a gun that many people would have overlooked. Simply because when it came to 380s, they only thought they belonged in pocket pistols, but I think they belong in subcompact and compact guns as well. I understand that 380 might not be the best cartridge for self-defense. If you can carry a 9, you might want to go in that direction, but some people just like 380. And for a long time, companies were only making 380s in the tiniest of guns. I really like the size of this. I have larger hands, and if I want to shoot a 380, this is the size pistol that I would want to go with. I also like the fact that this frame is made of aluminum. This is a pretty darn lightweight pistol, especially for its size. And once again, it is geared towards the concealed carry market. And of course, weight means a lot to those people that are looking for a gun for this purpose. So I really feel like the gun seems to be durable and it's lightweight. The last thing I really like about this pistol is the trigger, especially compared to the Beretta. I already showed you that this trigger does not have the problem of that magazine safety disconnect. So overall, it has a pretty darn good feel. So let me adjust the camera again. Let me get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge. I'm going to show you what this trigger is all about. And as I mentioned, I feel like the trigger in the Girsan MC14 G84 is a little bit better than the Beretta 84FS, and I want to show you these side by side. Both of these guns have the factory and stock triggers installed. Let's take a look at the Girsan first, but let's drop the magazine, and of course ensure there's no ammunition in it. And here we go with the double action pull. It is long. It's definitely a little bit heavier than you may want, but it's smooth. We come back to a definitive wall and a pretty darn crisp break. Let's take a look at that again. Not bad at all. You can definitely predict when that hammer is going to fall. Now, one complaint I will have about both of these pistols is the trigger face. As you can see, it is very curved, and with my big old fat fingers, sometimes it gets pinched here in the trigger guard. Now let's take a look at the Beretta. Let's safety check it as well. And I will have to reinsert the magazine because this gun has the magazine safety disconnect in it. Now when it comes to the double action pull, we have a very long take up. And it's definitely heavier than the Girsan. And when it comes to the wall, it's a little bit more squishy and you can't predict it as well. So there's that pull again. Yeah, it just doesn't feel or look as good as the Girsan. It's still perfectly fine. I just like this other pistol better. Now let's take a look at the single action pulls. And on the Girsan, we have a little take up. It is smooth. You come back to a definitive wall. It breaks pretty crisp. Now let's take a look at this reset. It is short, it is tactile, it is audible, and you are right back at that wall. That feels pretty darn good. Now, when it comes to the Beretta, we have a little bit longer take up, a little bit grittier. The wall is squishy. Pretty good break though. Now let's take a look at this reset. And it is definitely longer, and the reset is not tactile and audible. And then we have this big take up again to get back to the wall. The single action pull in the Girsan is definitely better than this. Yeah, I don't like that trigger. And this could be because this gun does have that magazine safety disconnect in it. But now let's weigh these triggers. Let's get the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge out. Let's clear the averages and let's try to measure these. We'll start in double action first, and this can be a little bit difficult sometimes because of the shape of the trigger. Plus, in double action, the weight can vary a little bit, but we'll give it a shot. For our first pull, we have 5 pounds, 13.4 ounces. 5 pounds, 14.1 ounces. 7 pounds, 5.4 ounces, and I told you we will get some variation in this. 5 pounds, 13.7 ounces. 6 pounds, 10.0 ounces, and I'm going to pull this trigger a couple more times because we have that wide variance. 6 pounds, 5.5 ounces, and finally we have 7 pounds, 11.2 ounces, which gives us an average of 6 pounds, 8.2 ounces. So now let's check out this Beretta's double action trigger pull. Let's clear the average and see what this thing measures at. 6 pounds, 0.5 ounces. 4 pounds, 6.2 ounces. I think that just could have been the way that the gauge slipped on the trigger face. 6 pounds, 15.3 ounces. 6 pounds, 14.9 ounces. 6 pounds, 2.7 ounces. And finally, 6 pounds, 12.8 ounces, which gives us an average of 6 pounds, 3.4 ounces. And as I said, because of the wide variance when it comes to trying to measure double action trigger pulls, I'm not really going to say this is definitively what these guns are. I'm just trying to give you an approximation. But I think I can measure the single actions much better. So let's do that. Let's get out the Girsan again. Let's clear the averages. And then let's measure the single action pull. For our first pull, we have 3 pounds, 7.2 ounces. Three pounds, 6.8 ounces. 3 pounds, 8.4 ounces. 3 pounds, 9.2 ounces. And finally, we have 3 pounds, 8.3 ounces, which gives us an average of 3 pounds, 8.0 ounces. That is really light for a trigger like this, and I do like it. It's not too light where I think it's dangerous, but I think it's going to help us get better accuracy. Let's go ahead and clear the averages out, and now let's try the Beretta in single action. Our first pull, 4 pounds, 7.2 ounces. 4 pounds, 6.3 ounces. 4 pounds, 6.8 ounces. 4 pounds, 9.0 ounces. And finally, 4 pounds, 5.4 ounces, which gives us an average of 4 pounds, 6.9 ounces. So as you can see, especially in single action, the Girsan is far superior. I really feel like that is a much better trigger in a firearm like this. But when it comes to the double action pull, it might be a little bit of a wash, but of course it's hard to measure. So that's what these triggers are all about. So before we get this gun to the range, I want to talk about two things about this gun that I don't like. And the first thing I don't like, I already showed you in the previous comparison, and that this gun does not have a decocker. I really wish we could decock this gun safely, but unfortunately we can't. Your only option is to carry this cocked and locked. The other thing that I wish Girsan would do is kind of upgrade this model. I know they're trying to copy the Beretta 84FS, and this gun does not have an option for a rail or an optics mount, but this is an older design, and Girsan does pride themselves on being a little bit more modern. I really feel like they could give us a small piece of rail out here or mill out this slide for an optic. I really feel like that would not be a very costly upgrade for them and would make the gun more appealing to more buyers. But those are really the only things I don't like about this gun. So let's get it to the range and find out how it shoots. So as always, I will start with the target at 7 yards. I'll put 2 magazines through this and we'll just see how it shoots, and if I discover anything else about this gun that I like or don't like, and I'll report back to you. So obviously we have to talk about the feeding issues, but before we do, I want to talk about an aspect of this design that has always bugged me. And this is regardless if it's in a Girsan or a Beretta, and that is the recoil. This gun recoils like a 9mm pistol, even though it's chambered in .380. As the laws of motion state, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So all of the power that is pushing the projectile down range is also coming back into your hand, and that force is not being slowed down or mitigated by a locking mechanism because this is a direct blowback firearm. And I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards this gun thinking it's a .380. It's going to shoot softer than a 9, but that's not my experience. This is a pretty big gun for a .380, and I don't know why they can't add some type of locking mechanism. After all, this is kind of like a small brother to the Beretta 92, and it has the dropping block. And other guns, like the Glock 42, have a tilting barrel. Why can't they do that in this? I think it would make it a much softer shooting firearm. So a lot of people think they're going to get the advantage of a less recoiling .380, but you really don't. It's kind of surprising. It's not bad, it's very manageable. It's just that I think most people will want a .380 to shoot lighter than a 9mm. But now let's talk about those issues. Does this gun need a break-in period? Well, it might. Could it be an ammo issue? It might. Most of the ammo ran just fine, and I know some people are going to ask, what did I use in that footage? Well, I started off this range report using the Sig Sauer Elite Performance ammunition. And I have a bunch of this. I also brought some others, so we'll see how this plays out as the range report goes on. All right, so the next test I want to do is double the distance of this target. I want to see if this gun is going to perform any better. I'm still going to be using the Sig ammunition, so let's go back to the range. Let's put some more rounds through this thing and see what happens. And we're having some more feeding issues. So now I think there's something wrong with this gun. Well, it could be the gun, it could be the feed ramps, it could be the magazine, or it could be the ammunition. So let's take a look at the projectile in this ammunition that I brought out from Sig. And as you can see, the projectile has a flat nose to it. And my gut instinct tells me this gun may not want to feed this because it's getting caught on the feed ramp. So I'm going to go ahead and skip to the ammo tests. As I said, I did bring some other ammo. So the next ammo I want to put through this is some S&B, and it has a round nose. So hopefully this is going to feed more reliably. So let's go back to the range and see if changing the ammo does anything. And that definitely ran better with no issues. I was kind of suspecting it might be that flat nose. Now normally this SIG ammo runs fine in everything that I put it in, but for some reason this gun does not like it, and that could be another issue with the fact that this is direct blowback. One of the advantages of a tilting barreled gun is that when the barrel tilts up, the feed ramps are at a better angle to pick up that round out of the magazine. But I want to try some more ammo. Yes, I brought some hollow points because I always want to test and see if this is going to be a good gun for self-defense. Now, hollow points also have a flat nose, but I brought some Federal Hydroshock. But the nose of this projectile is smaller than the flat nose of the SIG, so hopefully it will also feed. So let's go back to the range and see if it will feed hollow points. And those hollow points seem to be running pretty well too, so it really seems like this gun might be ammo sensitive, and more sensitive to the shape of the projectile than anything else. Alright, so the next test I want to do is the bench rest test. Now unfortunately I brought a lot of the SIG ammo. As I said, I've never had a problem with this stuff. This stuff is pretty high quality, but unfortunately that's pretty much all I have left. So I'm going to have to run some of that SIG ammo on this bench rest test at 25 yards. So, spoiler alert, I do have one issue. But here we go. Let's go back to the range. Let's see what the best group I can get with this pistol is at 25 yards and shooting from a barrier. And I feel like this gun has decent range or practical accuracy. It's definitely not a tack driver for me. I don't shoot this like the other 2011 pistols that I have reviewed in the past. But for a self-defense pistol that can be easily concealed, it's pretty good. I really have no issues with it. All the rounds are on target. I just wish the group was a little bit better. But I think if I was able to put a few thousand rounds through this and really train with it, I could probably tighten those up. Alright, so the next test I want to do is kind of a 3-in-1 test. It's one of those defensive tests that I like to run on every pistol. You probably buy this for self-defense, and so you want to know, well, can you shoot it fast? Also, you want to shoot it fast because it's fun. You also want to know, can you drop that magazine, get a fresh one in there, get the gun back in action quickly? And is the gun point shootable? And I always want to test this because as much as people want to think you're going to have time to get those sights on target, you might just have enough time with all of the adrenaline pumping through your veins just to get the gun out, point the gun at the target, and hopefully stop the threat. So is this gun a naturally pointing firearm? So let's go back to the range. Let's shoot it as fast as I can. Let's change this magazine out and see if it's a naturally pointing firearm. And let's talk about those results. Number one, can I shoot this gun fast? Yeah, I can. Can I change the magazine out quickly? You bet. When you push this magazine button, man, that mag just pops out of there really fast, clears the gun, and you have time to get that next one in there. But now let's talk about something that happened when it came to a misfire. Yeah, one of those rounds did not go bang. But because this is a double action gun, I have second strike capability. I can still pull that trigger again and the hammer went down on that primer and it went off. And I think that is a huge advantage of a hammer fired gun over a striker fired gun, especially one that is double action, because you have second strike capability. If one of those rounds doesn't go bang, you can keep pulling that trigger and hopefully it will. So that was something I wasn't expecting, and I'm glad this test showed that this is an advantage of this design. So what are my final thoughts on the Girsan MC14 G84? Well, this does seem to be a very high quality pistol. It's very attractive. The trigger is definitely better than the Beretta. You have double strike capability. You don't have the magazine safety. All those things I think are very positive. But unfortunately, it seems to be ammo sensitive, even with high quality ammunition. If you own one of these, you're probably going to need to test a few out. It does not have a decocker, so if the hammer is back, there's no real safe way of lowering the hammer. You pretty much have to carry it cocked and locked. And finally, the recoil of this pistol is more like a 9 than a 380. And that's not really Girsan's fault because they're just copying Beretta. I kind of blame Beretta for this. They should have designed this just a little bit better. I really think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards this gun thinking it's going to have the same recoil impulse of a Beretta 92, just scaled down. And that's not the case. It hits a little bit harder than what you expect. So this gun definitely has a lot of pros and a couple of cons, but the biggest downside is the ammo sensitivity. So on my star system, how would I rate the Girsan MC14 G84? Well, because of the ammo issue, I can only give it 3.75 stars out of 5. Not bad, better than average, but it's not a grand slam. I don't know how to adjust for this ammo sensitivity. Who knows, maybe this gun will break in a little bit over time. But as I said, I will have to go back to the range and run a various number of ammos through this to find out what does it like. And that will give me pause as a concealed carry handgun, because you want to make sure if you ever pull this firearm, you need it to go bang every time. And if you can't trust that, it might not be the firearm for you. But there's so many things about this gun that are extremely positive. So if I can just iron that out, it would probably be a 4.5 star review. And the only reason I wouldn't give it a 5-star review is I just don't shoot it as accurate as other handguns, but it is a direct blowback 380 that's kind of small. It definitely is beautiful. It's definitely well built. I would just want it to run a little bit more reliably. So what do you guys think? Do you think this is a good alternative to the Beretta 84FS? I know for the price it is, But what do you guys think? Do you own one of these? And do your experiences mirror mine? So let me know in the comment section below. And, as always, thanks for watching. And I always want to thank my primary sponsor because he provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, and I stuttered and